This is called the spectacular failure fat acceptance. This is probably about just the failure of body positivity in general. Which is attributed to it being more like acceptance. I would call the body positivity movement more like fat acceptance, because that's what it is. I think body positivity should be for those who are sick and those who those who are disabled, sick, whatever, and not for those who don't have like any discipline and let themselves go. Basically, is what I think. What's the word? Body positivity should be. Those with scars, those with like a rare skin condition, and not for people who eat too much.
I regret to inform you, this is where we're at.
We're gonna get an ad immediately.
Hi,
I can feel it.
Sydney. Welcome back to hell. And of course, as per usual, before we launch in, this video is sponsored by me and my little tea company, Lines Tea Exchange. This would make a great gift for Father's Day because normalization of obesity has been accelerated.
That's too far.
Over means ugly and fat. But since then, several things have happened that have crystallized for me that the fat acceptance and body positivity movements are in freefall. Shocking, I know. Who would have thought that movements dedicated to obesity would fail? Not me.
Who would have thought? Not me.
The acceptance and normalization of obesity has been accelerating for some time.
Being overweight is the smartest thing you can do. It might not have any repercussions when you are 20, when you are 30, when you are 40, maybe even 50. But when you reach 60 and 70 and 80, it will have heavy repercussions for you. Your body, the human body, is very tolerant to a lot of shit that we do to it. But eventually, this will catch up to you. I see it in my parents, like older, like the parents of some people I know, where they're now reaching like 50 and 60, and like they are now like basically facing the consequences of like being overweight or not like being fit enough, and like yeah.
And with the emergence of TikTok, fat activism has been allowed to take off and flourish.
The fact that fat activism is even a word is concerning. What does that mean, fat activism? Are you advocating for people to stay overweight? Are you advocating for society to accommodate to you being overweight? Like, what does that even mean?
Thousands of people that being fat is not only completely fine, but healthy.
We need to be actively deconstructing the idea that weight...
Is being fat fine? Yes. Should you aim to not be overweight? Also yes. Being overweight is fine. Staying overweight is not fine. I mean, you can do it if you choose to do so. I won't stop you. But I will also tell you the hard truth that you should probably lose weight, as it comes with numerous health benefits. Not only does it come with health benefits, but people will treat you better. That's just a harsh reality. People do treat you better when you aren't overweight. You get better chances of being hired. That's just how it is. And it's not because like you're fat. It's also because like you're what's the word? You can turn into a liability to a company if you are too overweight, is what I'm trying to say.
Weight loss and getting smaller is what health is what feeling good is. We need to stop.
Well, it sure as hell isn't giving yourself diabetes and then crying about thin privilege. I just realized from that last shot I should probably acknowledge it is once again that time of year where my arms and face are a different color because I don't mind getting a tan here, but I don't want this to go in the sun. Because of the lines. Judge me all you want. I don't want to look like a saggy bag of cheese. But the problem is, this assertion about health and obesity is a lie. Finally, after years of obesity being glorified at worst and promoted at best, it seems that there has been a very obvious and significant shift in the way that people feel about—
I think, as far as I'm aware, I've seen a clip of Lizzo losing weight, and honestly, she looks great, and she also looks happier, it seems, which makes you realize that, like, she faced some backlash for losing weight. You have to imagine you receive backlash for trying to be more healthy. Like, I have no words for this. I can't explain it. It's just weird. It's like telling somebody, yo, you stopped smoking? How dare you stop smoking? Huh?
this issue. When fat influencers aren't dying, they're actively turning on these movements. Brands and companies have started to completely move away from body positive messaging, and there seems to be this general impatience accommodating obesity at every turn. Not to mention, the weight loss drug Ozempic has been on everyone's minds, whether it be speculating about the latest celebrity who has dropped a few pounds on it.
So, as far as I'm aware, this isn't a permanent solution. This is only temporary. If you don't have the, what's the word, the discipline to stay on that weight, you're gonna regain it pretty quickly.
Or using the drug as the butt of jokes, like on the recent special episode of South Park called The End of Obesity. They're very aptly named. But the remaining fat activists are not taking any of this lightly. Pun absolutely intended. I'm not sorry. I saw recently a research paper where a fat scholar wondered—
What do you mean, fat scholar? Do you mean like this could be taken in two ways? Do you mean a scholar in being fat, or do you mean literally a fat scholar? Which is it? Or is it both? Is it a fat scholar who is a scholar in being fat? Many such questions.
If Ozempic could be considered a form of eugenics against fat people. The Daily Beast even wrote an article asking if Ozempic was making fat phobia worse, saying that the
There is no fat phobia. People are afraid of dying. Yes.
Manufacturers of the drug are turning a staggering profit by exploiting our fears about fatness. Bold assertion there, although I think it has less to do with fear and more to do with wanting to be able to climb a flight of stairs. Not to mention all of the fat influencers who are attacking other fat influencers because they chose to lose weight and get in shape.
My brain doesn't work well. This can be taken in so many ways. Is it fat influencers? Or is it influencers who are fat? Or is it fat influencers influencing people about being fat?
Healthy, and that is somehow a slight against them.
I've had to unfollow so many people this week because everyone is like, I'm taking a new medication for weight loss. I'm doing this new thing for weight loss. I'm doing it for weight loss. I'm sick of it. You can be fat and healthy the same way you can be thin and unhealthy.
Fat and healthy is an oxymoron. It cancels each other out, because if you're fat, you're not healthy. If you're thin, you can be unhealthy. That much is true. But if you're fat, you're also unhealthy. What is this nonsense?
So don't hide behind this facade that your weight loss is all for health benefits, because we know that's not true. We know you're losing weight so you can look better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, it's multiple things. It's looking better, it's being more healthy, it's being treated better, because the harsh truth is, again, I've said it before, but people will treat you a bit differently based on your weight. That's just how it is. Take it from somebody who was almost 100 kilograms. Take it from somebody. I'm now 73.
Better, whatever the that means. Maybe you're just ugly, just a thought. But I am so sick of it. I'm so sick of especially you fat bitches currently who have built your platforms on being fat and gained hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers because you've been this body positive queen for people. And now what? You've got the fame, you've got the followers, so you're done. You've got what you wanted, so now you're gonna go turn your back on all these people who have supported you?
Well, I guess someone has to, because their knees certainly can't anymore. So that's what we're going to talk about today, why the fat acceptance and body positivity movements have failed so spectacularly. Spectacularly? Spectacularly. I think I did this last time. Because to be totally frank, it's actually quite alarming how few people aren't really all that concerned with taking care of themselves. And admittedly, a lot of people are very comfortable doing things that will inevitably hurt them in the long run, rather than turning to something like Magic Mind, which is designed to optimize your focus without pumping you full of big pharma chemicals. It's sometimes nice to give your brain a little boost with Magic Mind.
Sydney!
Magic Mind is the
no more!
Trend. In it, the writer explains how good gets you up to 56% off your first subscription for the next 10 days. Not too long ago, I came across an article titled, "Thinness is Creeping Back In, but My Fat Liberation Isn't Just a Trend." In it, the writer explains how good she felt.
What are you liberating? Liberate your bones, man! How about you liberate your bones? How about you liberate your knee?
Leaning into the fat acceptance and body positivity movements, after years of counting calories and obsessing about being thin. However, she said that she's now noticing that people are sliding back towards valuing thinness and what she calls heroin chic. The writer goes on, "It's starting to become increasingly apparent how many people and brands were simply using body positivity and curve washing as zeitgeisty marketing."
What are all these buzzwords? Curve washing? What? Are people already also using fat maxing?
Employees. If it's any indication of what's to come, many influencers who previously used body positivity to build a career and land brand deals are coming right out and telling us how they really feel. And how they feel is that fat acceptance is bad and being able to fit into plane seats is good. That gives me a little bit of PTSD there. I'm not gonna lie. Never again.
Yeah, I remember Sydney being cancelled on Twitter for complaining that somebody overweight sit next to her and like literally like squeezed her.
But apparently, all of this is off-putting and wrong to our fat activist
Also, this
friends.
frame does
But
a
what
wonderful
this Daily
thumbnail.
Beast writer is saying is not actually isolated. Over the last little while, I have noticed a massive uptick in people getting very upset at former fat influencers getting healthy and losing weight.
I'm gonna take the heat since no one else will, and I'll talk about this. The fact that there are influencers who built gigantic followings based on their conversations around body positivity, healing your relationship with food and with exercise, who have now done a complete 180 and are now talking about weight loss medications, weight loss surgeries, and just like being on a weight loss journey in general, literally just making coffee or eating their fucking breakfast, talking about the shit is insane. That should literally be illegal. The fact that there's one particular influencer who built over 300,000 followers talking about her ED recovery journey and is now every single day talking about the fact that she's intentionally losing weight to
Is this Earth 2? Is this Earth 2? Is this the wrong planet? Is this Earth too? It has to be Earth too.
To those same exact followers. You have to be out of your my brain cannot, I can't wrap my head around. Like, I've had to unfollow so many of my mutuals because this behavior is just so despicable.
I've also
Let's continue.
noticed an uptick in articles and videos angry about the emergence of quote-unquote thinness again, after believing the desire to be small, thin, and athletic was seemingly defeated by the fat acceptance and body positivity movements.
So I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to the signs, but like we are re-entering a thin is in era, and it's fucking with me real bad.
Now, I would like to make note of the fact
Because
that
you have to realize that you are overweight. Is that why you are acting like this?
activism and fat acceptance have always been this bizarre, corrosive arm of the body positive movement. Over the years, it's been marked as a group of people united against diet culture and weight loss, with the movement even going so far as to shame people for losing weight, and drawing lines in the sand on who is really considered fat and who is allowed to participate in their ideology.
Now that body positivity has been co-opted by all bodies, and people are finally celebrating medium and small girls and people who occasionally get roles, fat people are still getting the short end of this movement. No one cares anymore because it's like body positivity is for everybody.
Okay, this is the fatness spectrum. A small fat is a size.
Body positivity should be for those who, like, actually have things that they cannot change. What are these? Okay, the fatness spectrum. Small fat, 1 to 2 times, 18 and lower. Mid-fat, 2 times, 3 times, 3 times, 20 to 24, toward 2 to 3. What the actual fuck? There is a little fatness spectrum? You're small fat. Why are you speaking over super fats? They're talking like there's some product in like a supermarket aisle.
Size 18 and lower, 1X or 2X. I'm a 4X, 5X. I'm a size 26, sometimes 28. I am the super fat you say I'm speaking over.
Now, I know I may be the bad guy for saying this, but it will never not be funny to me that there is a fatness spectrum that doubles up as a victim hierarchy. Especially given that how fat
The fatter you are, the more victim you are.
you are directly relates to how many opinions you're allowed to express. We have more than earned the earth opening up and swallowing us all. Somewhere along the road, this ideology actually took root socially, making its way into dominant culture. Major brands started using obese models in their marketing, obese women on the front of magazines, and walking runways for major fashion houses. Women like Lizzo and Tess Holliday popped up as notable celebrities and role models in the fat acceptance movement. And all around, it seemed that the ideology was making serious headway. I discussed at length in a previous video the origins of the body positivity movement, but to recap for those of you who are not familiar, as it stands, there are 3 primary ideas that often get lumped together and are often discussed interchangeably: health at every size, body positivity, and fat acceptance.
Health at every size is not, like, does not exist. Too thin, unhealthy. Too fat, unhealthy. That's the entire thing. Done.
The
There's not
2024
nothing much to say.
version of all of these is mostly just fat people screaming about discrimination and being very angry with doctors. Health at every size was the first movement to really gain momentum in the 70s and 80s. During this time, a strong emphasis was placed on being thin rather than being athletic or healthy. This time period gave us radical restrictive diets like the cabbage soup diet, and women, most
Cabbage soup. Ugh.
notably, were often prescribed drugs to, curb their appetites and whatnot. I'm pretty sure this is where meth came from. keeping the housewives skinny. After the death of
Yeah, I don't know. That's also bad, obviously.
singer Carol Carpenter, who suffered a cardiac arrest and passed away at 32 in 1983 after suffering from anorexia for a number of years, extreme diet culture and thinness was catapulted into public consciousness. But it really wasn't enough to change anything, as we saw things get probably a lot worse in the 90s and early 2000s, where, as I've mentioned before in other videos, women like Jessica Simpson were considered fat at only a size 4. But here, with the rise of the internet, and after decades of these body standards being front and center,
I got a tea. I got a tea. Let's go. Okay, let's continue.
health at every size found a home on the now mostly defunct website Tumblr. Yes, everything bad begins with Tumblr. And from there, it grew and mutated.
Or Reddit. Or Reddit.
First into body positivity, which started as an ideology that encouraged people to feel comfortable in their own skin, regardless of their flaws, and then into fat acceptance, the new idea that looked down on dieting, weight loss, and fully rejected the idea of being thin and athletic in favor of accepting your weight no matter how big you get. And this is why I see no reason why we shouldn't bring back lobotomies. Now, because fat acceptance...
We should bring lobotomies for a couple of reasons. We should bring lobotomies back for a couple of reasons. Not only that.
is very closely tied to activism, and because our populations are just getting fatter and fatter, this, of course, started to catch on.
Yeah. Fun fact, we do not have a starvation problem in the world. At least here in the Western world. We do have an overeating problem. We have an obesity problem. If we cut down on all the food that we were consuming here in the West, we could feed the areas that do not have food. Nobody would be starving on Earth if we didn't overeat.
Outside of this online subgroup. Soon it was being adopted as a marketing ploy by plenty of brands who saw an opportunity to reach a brand new, highly motivated demographic. Clothing brands started carrying larger and larger sizes. Major brands like Victoria's Secret did away with its angels in favor of a more eclectic group of people. And anything less
diversity,
than this, anything that was considered conventionally
fat
beautiful
Barbie
or athletic or thin, was almost vilified. Gave us some really
damn, I'm a villain? It's kind of crazy.
Really weird marketing. Let me tell you that much. Like, what is this? And why? Anyway, this is more or less where we have been for the past little while. Seeing obesity normalized everywhere, social media and TikTok especially being full of fat individuals deeming absolutely everything fat-phobic, and the rest of us growing more and more exhausted and impatient as time wears on.
Yes, I am fat-phobic in this regards.
On. And the net effect of all of this, that I'm sure some of you have even noticed already, is that although our populations are getting fatter and fatter, there has been a massive shift away from these movements. Why brands and companies would choose to abandon ship is fairly self-evident. They finally cottoned on to the fact that the online screaming and activism and seal clapping for these initiatives doesn't actually translate into tangible sales.
Yeah. When we look at, like, let's look at the gyms. There's a lot of people nowadays. A lot of young people go to the gym. These people screaming online are just a loud minority in a single bubble, like a small bubble. They are, like, super loud, but they are not the majority of people.
The activists that love to talk a big game online don't actually put their money where their mouth is, and frankly, neither do the rest of us. I like my products without a side of lecturing. Thank you. You hear that, Nike? You're not my mom. Not to mention the fact that fat activists truly believed that corporations weren't just out here trying to make a buck and piggybacking off of trends, and that they actually believed in the tenets of fat acceptance and were promoting these radical ideologies is wild.
But we see this in a couple of things. For example, Chinese media, where gay people, trans people, whatever, like the LGBTQ community in general, falls for the idea that characters in these games are gay or lesbian or trans or whatever. They're just farming you. They're literally just farming you.
Love to live in that level of delusion. But I hate to break it to you, Sandra, Calvin Klein does not care about your war against the thins. It's also worth remembering that the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light saga was a bit of a wake-up call for brands and companies all over the place. While this situation obviously has nothing to do with fat acceptance, it was a signal that the flagrant disregard for the
It had to do, however, with a man being a symbol for femininity, which is obviously a problem.
The opinions of the average person were simply not going to carry brands forward financially and socially anymore. So the companies we get, that makes sense. But what about these fat influencers and former fat activists? What brought about their change of heart? Well, simply put, from what I can gauge, being fat long-term and just being fat at all is quite challenging. I don't mean the eating side of things, I mean just doing basic tasks. It seems that as time has worn on, these
It is straining on your body, straining on your bones, straining on like on your life, on your social life. It is difficult to navigate if you're like going by plane somewhere, like public public, what's the word I'm looking for? Shit. Public transportation. It is looking for a partner. It is a problem in many regards.
Influencers have realized that the messaging of the body positivity and fat acceptance movements was overall misleading, keeping them in an absolutely miserable loop of pain and unhappiness. Back in early 2023, an internet personality called Gabriella Lascano, I hope I said that correctly, made a TikTok explaining why she'd moved away from the fat acceptance movement and why women shouldn't put being fat above their health.
I don't care how trendy or cute or fun it seems to be fat. Don't let that hit your head. Don't let the idea that, oh, I could catch a dick no matter how big I am, cause you to forget about your health and to keep gaining weight. I actually feel kind of guilty for being a part of this movement, and I know it's not my fault or my responsibility to keep other people's health, but being a pioneer in this game, like I literally was one of the first influencers to work with Fashion Nova before they even had a plus size line.
You can, is it directly your responsibility? No. Are you influencing people to go down this path? Yeah. You're not responsible for people doing, but you have an influence.
He ends the video telling women that it isn't fat-phobic to take care of their health, and none of this is a joke.
Health is real. Organs failing is real. Diabetes, heart disease, all that is real, okay? It's not fat-phobic to care about your health.
One Piece is real.
And if nobody else wants to say it, let me tell you the truth. Love yourself at any size, wear the clothes you want to wear, but don't forget that your heart has to beat, babes. Don't forget that your blood sugar has to keep a balance, babe. No amount of Instagram pictures looking cute and being an influencer wearing a size whatever you are is going to stop your heart from not beating if you eating bacon every day. And this is coming from someone who's learning those lessons now, myself.
As expected, a bunch of people got very upset with her and accused her of abandoning the movement and being a horrible demon devil she-wench. I made that last one up, but you get the point. Needless to say, a lot of angry TikToks.
How can you be angry at somebody who is trying to live a better life? I don't get it. I don't understand it. It does not connect in my brain.
were made. But the vitriol Lascano experienced isn't unique, and honestly, it's a really, really sad component of these movements. Anytime you try to do anything to better yourself, you are screeched at and accused of perpetuating fat phobia. Because at this stage, anything to do with health and fitness and slimming down is considered fat phobic. I hate it here. Earlier in 2024, another fat influencer called Rosie Beam posted an Instagram story where she explained, "Full transparency, I have zero remorse or shame for being public about my weight loss. 2 years ago, I couldn't wipe my own ass." Well, that was certainly not an image I needed. Similar.
I also know people that were so overweight they were not able to shower by themselves. They were not able to clean themselves by themselves. And when something dropped onto the floor, somebody else had to get it. They couldn't bind their shoes. They were not able to do anything realistically except walk.
Similarly to Lascano's treatment, a bunch of fat
And even that worked barely.
Kicked off online, accusing her of ableism and even racism, but for some reason. One obviously not remotely unhinged individual even wrote an entire blog post attacking Beam, while also simultaneously saying that she too is too large to wipe her own butt, but explains why that's okay. I don't even know what to say about this. I need a drink. But this is a major theme that is
she turned alcoholic because of this.
Unfolding currently in the fat acceptance movement, with plenty of people now turning their backs on this ideology, on this culty group of people, saying that being fat or listening to the tenets of this movement is just keeping them perpetually in a horrible, horrible place.
43 years. Do you know the years I've wasted on that to realize it's about the health? It took me 43 years to realize that. Until January 16th, 2022, I said, that's it. I have to make a change. And I've been making that change. And I have no regrets. No regrets. I'm loving the choices I've been making because I'm down.
43 years of living in, potentially living in absolute misery. Better than never. Better late than never, I guess. But man,
70 pounds. And the problem is we have people who like to coddle us and not keep it 100% real. Because yes, just because I'm overweight doesn't mean I'm ugly. But it's a serious health issue. And when you're in your 20s, yeah, you don't feel it. Early 30s, you can still get away with it. But once you hit those late 30s, early 40s, that's when everything starts to really...
Yeah, that's what I said in the beginning of the video. When you're young, your body tolerates a lot of shit. And with shit, I mean a lot of shit. It tolerates all the soda you're drinking. It tolerates all the bad, habits you're doing. It will tolerate it. Until you hit 40, 50. Then your body says, yo, bro. Time to face the consequences of your own actions.
Come into effect. Your knees, your feet, your everything just hurts. Everything just bothers you. So seriously, if you are gaining weight just to be on this fat girl trend, stop it. Stop it, because it's not going to work out for you in the end. You have to focus on your health.
The body positivity movement kept me fat. Body positivity also means enjoying the body you have and not beating yourself up over changes that happen naturally due to aging and pregnancy, absolutely, but lifestyle choices, absolutely not, dude. Are you kidding me? If your lifestyle choices are actively harming your body, there's nothing positive about that. When I was almost 200 pounds and I was pre-hypertensive and pre-diabetic at 19 years old, and when people were telling me, just love yourself, embrace body positivity, there was nothing positive about anything that I was doing. Self-love should be about loving yourself and taking the best care of yourself. So when I was 19 and I was obese and I was already having health issues, the best thing I ever did was look at myself in the mirror and tell myself, holy if you do not make changes, you are going to go.
That was me at 20 when I realized, yo, I'm almost 100 kilograms. At 5'7", Bro, you gotta lose weight. Because if this continues, you're yeah, it is over.
Go down a road that you are not going to be able to turn back from.
The New York Times even ran a piece in February 2024 about this exact topic. The story covered several former fat influencers who lost weight and then had to navigate this new world and the response from their audiences. The tragedy of it all, at least in my opinion, is the pushback these women are getting from their former audiences and other fat activists who feel as though they've been abandoned and mistreated here somehow. This has always been a feature of this group of people. Anytime one of their idols starts working out or working to better themselves, people go absolutely nuts. And I think for a lot of us, it's hard to understand why you wouldn't want your favorite person to better themselves. However, an article I read about this issue took—
Because you can no longer, what's the word? I'm looking for it. Relate to them. I thought body positivity was created for the disabled and people with birth defects, not fat Americans. Well, here's the proof that the fat people, fat Americans, took over the body positivity movement. If that
took a run at explaining this reaction.
I don't know the origins of it, but I wish that it was just for the people like disabled, birth defects, getting anything like a skin condition or like being burned or anything like that, having scars, you know, things you can't change, or like things like you get fat because of a sickness, like that sort of stuff.
Writing, people don't look at body positive influencers for change, but for validation. If they wanted change, they'd follow someone who's already declared they're embarking on a quote-unquote fitness journey. And that does more or less seem to be at the heart of the issue. And speaking of hearts, I think you guys know where this is going. There's one final very important part of the failure of these movements that I wanted to touch on, and it is the passing of fat activists and fat acceptance people. Around the end of 2023, several outlets published articles about several notable fat acceptance people passing away before the age of 45. Kat Pause, a professor of fat studies, okay, a TikToker called
The fat scholars are real.
Waffler69, a reality star called Jamie Lopez, and another TikToker called Brittany Sauer. It's worth noting that Waffler, whose name is actually Taylor Lejeune, wasn't expressly part of the fat acceptance movement. It seems he, along with other food creators, got fat by virtue of doing this job, which just is a whole thing on its own. But the other three women were, at one time or another, very proud of their bodies and their fatness. Kat Pause was staunchly pro—
This is nothing you can be proud of. How can you be proud of that? How? Who fed you this delusion?
obesity until the end. She even made a point of suggesting that obesity wasn't unhealthy. Brittany Sauer originally made TikTok videos suggesting she too was very happy being overweight.
Just because I'm fat, that doesn't invalidate the things that I say.
But tragically—
Depends. When you are a, like health minister for a country, and you're fat, I will question the things you say.
before she passed away, she realized that promoting obesity was wrong. In one of her last TikTok videos ever, she warned other people not to make the same mistake.
I ruined my life with food, binge eating, and lack of self-care. And I'm hoping that it's not too late for me this time. I'm out of breath constantly. You know, and I wish I knew the cost of eating. I wish I knew the cost of the comfort at the time that I was seeking.
And I just want this to be a warning to other people.
This was more or less the same story for Jamie Lopez, a woman who starred on the show Super Size Salon. She seemed initially very proud of her appearance and weight. Her salon was also dedicated to helping other overweight and obese women, providing them an experience that they couldn't get elsewhere due to their size. However, she
Oh man.
She soon began updating her audience about her weight loss journey and said that she lost 400 pounds. For those of you metric babies out there, I have no idea what that is in kilos. How much is 400 pounds in kilos? 181.
She lost double my weight and then some! Wow! Wow! I weigh 73 kilograms right now. What? Wow.
That's literally like...
She lost 2.5 me's.
I'm so bad at maths. 4 of me. That is genuinely a wild achievement. Wow. Personally, I think it's really tragic that the last 2 women were really making an effort to get their lives on track and trying to make healthy and positive changes so that they could live longer and ended up passing away anyway. And meanwhile, the same culty group of people who promoted the ideas that led to their death in the first place will continue to promote them going forward. The bottom line is that while fat acceptance is definitely falling out of favor and more people are waking up to its lies, it is still operating as an ideology, as a group of people, and it is still pushing ideas that are leading people down a terrible path. Like I mentioned earlier, the way in which fat acceptance came into being was largely a response to earlier movements that prioritized extreme thinness, often at the expense of women's health. But just as that social era fell, so too was
It's just both extremes. One extreme led to another extreme. You shouldn't be too thin. You shouldn't be too fat. How is that difficult?
The glorification of morbid obesity destined to fall. And not to be cliche, of course, but the pendulum always swings back. And I think fat activists had a somewhat shorter shelf life than their predecessors, in part because they were so obnoxious, but also because people do, in fact, want to feel good. I know, crazy, right? And even if you are gifted with the most body confidence in the world, you are not going to feel good when you are severely overweight to
What the hell is that?
the point that you can barely function. That is ultimately why more and more fat influencers are reporting that they want to lose weight. Not because they hate themselves, but because they didn't feel good in the bodies they were promoting as acceptable. Now, for me, the interesting part hasn't been the fall of this movement, because that was really just inevitability. Social movements and trends.
6 ways to be a fat ally. Treat fat people with respect and dignity. Call out fat phobia when you hear it and see it. There's no fat phobia. Seek out fat stories from fat people. Believe fat people. Ask restaurants, bars, special event venues, etc. to provide size-inclusive seating options. Take fat friends and family to fat accessible spaces. What is this? What is this?
Come and go all the time, after all. The interesting part has been the reaction of those involved in this movement at its decline. It's been very, very bizarre to witness. Cult-like is really the only word that I have for it. It's like a bunch of people are trapped in a burning room and they're yelling at the ones going for the exit. In the end, I am genuinely really glad to see more and more people taking control of their lives and saying no to fat activism and no to fat acceptance, because nothing good can come of these ideologies. And maybe with enough time, we can stamp this stupidity out entirely. Now, with that being said, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder, check out Magic Mind using the
rest is just ad. If it is actually failing, I think that's good. If it is actually failing, because, you know, again, I've said it again, you may not now feel the consequences, you may not now feel the whatever's happening to your body, but You will feel it late in your late 30s, 40s, or 50s. It will come back. Like all the bad habits you have picked up, they will strike you. And then you will say, why didn't I do like help myself sooner and like and yeah, take care of myself sooner.